Hello, Uta here with some more newly emerged calendula. I'm actually thinking of digging up the plant and sticking it in a pot in the cold frame because maybe it will overwinter and just give me some flowers during the winter. It's amazing. So you might hear it in my nose a little bit. I am just now recovering from a cold, but it was a mild one, and I'm very pleased to say that with homemade chicken soup that I made, I seem to have gotten over it in about 3 days. So I'm very pleased about that. And I just wanted to introduce this new series that I'm going to start again about Piaget. The essential Piaget that was originally put together and published in the late 1970s has been re-edited and so on after Piaget died in 1980. He gave his approval to this book by Howard Gruber and Jacques Venochet, which I don't know if if that was correctly pronounced, but I corrected myself when I looked up more on Piaget. He actually was from the French part of Switzerland, had spent some of his training time in Paris, and even taught at a boys' school in Paris. And probably during these early years, after completing some degrees in philosophy, he became interested in how do we know what knowledge is? How do we know the difference between opinion and fact? And this is called epistemology. And as I'm going through the essential Piaget, 860 pages, I'm finding one of the reasons why the trans movement came in and took over psychology, because the psychologists are just too much in their head and they invent all kinds of words and phrases that in a way are unachievable, not available to everyone else. And this is kind of unfortunate. I mean, I think the four stages are relatively understandable. Sensory motor, the first stage, and the operational part of it, you can understand. Children have to learn by doing, so that would be the word operational. And formal operational, referring to things like equations and conceptual, abstract math and that type of thing. And so I think most of us can understand the basics of the four stages of development that Piaget has established and which are still very much accepted, so much so that they have their own webpage on the National Institutes of Health website. Now, I do wish that Supreme Court Justices Alito and Kavanaugh and the rest of them who seem to be thinking rationally. So I wish that they had referenced this child development bit, because why should this woman who ideates a male persona, Chase Strangio, lecture the U.S. Supreme Court justices regarding child development? And why should a childless, non-developmental psychologist, Justice Sotomayor, interrupt and question the Tennessee Solicitor General, who has listened to all of the logical developmental testimony in the state of Tennessee? So I think what we can see through this case, U.S. v. Skrmetti, is that the liberal side of the U.S. Supreme Court has been captured. Unfortunately, I'm literally, as a woman, I am ashamed at Brown Jackson and Sotomayor. I just, to make this very clear, I'm just going to, on page 217, 216, mention, it's such small print. This book is 860 pages long. And it apparently is considered to be the definitive Piaget volume, book to read. And I'm sure it was assigned in child development classes, not the ones I took, which actually the ones I took were just as the hardcover wouldn't have been assigned. So, yeah, it's kind of interesting. This was just in the late 1970s is when I started taking the courses in child psychology. So here we have birth to 6 weeks. What a baby is doing is reflexes. A baby is getting used to being out in the world, breathing through his or her nose, suckling, and filling diapers with the remains of what was digested. The baby's digestive system is getting used to taking in food instead of taking in nourishment through the umbilical cord. And it's all very exhausting, and a lot of the time the baby is sleeping, at which time the mother needs to jump headfirst into bed, let everyone else serve you hand and foot so that you can get your sleep, and drink lots of fresh water and good fluids and eat nourishing food so that you can breastfeed this baby and give him or her the nourishment required for a baby. And at the beginning, I remember with both of my sons, I had a couple of days when they kind of slept after the birth, and then they were up a lot, and I had to get along without very much sleep. And interesting, although Nettie claims details of the birth that I went through, the births, 2 natural child labors, he claims details of that to prove that he is female, when it's odd that he wouldn't get up in the middle of the night to feed our sons some expressed milk. I remember trying to wrangle with him. Actually, it wasn't just negotiate, it was like wrangling with him so that I could get maybe 4 hours of sleep together on a Saturday night, when of course I would then get up early and take care of the child in the morning, and he could sleep on Sunday morning. But when I elbowed him, it's your turn, the 2:30 or 3 a.m. feeding, he just rolled over. He couldn't wake up. Isn't that so interesting? He just doesn't have that instinct. The baby is crying. Get up. And this whole idea of men nursing cannot nourish the baby. It can only malnourish the baby. The baby is going to fall asleep after not getting enough. And I know this because I went through a period when I had pneumonia. My second son was 6 months old, and my milk basically dried up. We had to feed him formula from a bottle. Miraculously, I did keep on pumping my breasts to prevent my milk from entirely drying up. And 2 months later, when I was recovered, he took again to the breast, and he never wanted a bottle again. So isn't that interesting? Okay, so reflexes for the first 6 weeks. 6 weeks to 4 or 5 months become habits. And probably that's, uh, sleeping, and then waking up and sensing that you have a wet diaper that's uncomfortable, and so you cry about it, and then mama probably or someone cleans you up and puts you in nice, fresh, clean, warm clothes and rocks you and comforts you, and they make all of the adults and the older children make all kinds of cooing sounds and try to get the baby to smile because that's just so fun and sacred. Then, 4 months to 9 months, coordination between vision and prehension, which I think is hand. It's eye-hand coordination, meaning maybe the baby starts sucking on her fingers, or maybe the baby starts sucking on his thumb. 9 months to 12 months, coordination between means and goals. That's we're starting to crawl and so on. So the baby sees things to get closer to or grab, etc. And 12 months to 18 months, discovery of new means. And that starts, typically sometime between 11 and 14 months is walking. And 18 months to 14 months, 18 months to 24 months. This is such small print. Insight. So figuring out that if you push a tower of blocks over, it's going to fall. And I think this is so interesting. I think it really does prove how in your head these psychologists were, because I'm sure it's elsewhere in the book, but this whole thing about rolling over, lifting your head, being able to sit up, all of those milestones are not in this description. And so it demonstrates how the psychologists like Piaget were so in their heads and not so much connecting mind and body. They're just thinking, how does the mind work, and making these assumptions about what does the body do to create this learning in the mind. And this is an interesting book. It's called Becoming a Tiger. And it's all about how do animals learn, and how biologists try to differentiate between learned behavior and innate or instinctive behavior. And there was something about children in here, and now I don't know if I can find it. It's about play. And the scientist Mark Bekoff puts it, play is the ideal time to learn social ground rules. What could be a better atmosphere in which to learn social skills than during social play, where there are few penalties for transgressions? You learn how hard it is acceptable to bite or hit or peck. If you are a tiger or a bird. And let's see. Oh, yes. Colin Allen and Mark Bekoff note that human children begin to play with other kids before they have developed a theory of mind, meaning that before children realize that others have different thoughts in their head than you do. Before they understand, for example, that not everyone knows what they know. And so that's it for now. I just am presenting this series about Piaget and child development to make it very clear that it is not possible to, in quotes, know that you have been born in the wrong body since birth. And you can't know this wrong body idea since, for example, as mentioned by the woman who thinks that she is a male, Chase Strangio, you cannot know when you are 2 years old. This is just not possible. And the field of psychology are so in their head that they did not take the time to point out how their colleagues messed up in the gender area. There we are.